It's time for the Your Personal Bank Show with Ferenc Toth, President and founder of Secure Estate Management. Take charge of your financial future with your personal bank. Now, here's Ferenc Toth.
Happy New Year to everybody. I just wanted to share some really cool information that, I've been sharing for a number of years now. And so we're going to do something a little different on today's show. I know with New Year's, a lot of people have New Year's resolutions. They make goals for their life, their financial future. We have weight and workout goals, all kinds of different things. You're going to improve relationships, all those kinds of things that people do. And unfortunately, often, frankly, fail at in most cases, as most of us know, through previous New Year's resolutions that we've had. We have good intentions, but why do they not always work out like we intended? So we're going to talk about this. And I thought about this a lot about, beginning how to start the year off and what would be important to touch on and how would money and your personal bank and all that kind of fit into it. And I think some of my agents, I own a Secure Estate Management. We're a financial insurance agency for, 15 plus years now. And each year I've taught this Wheel of Life. And some thoughts on this idea to my sales team, my agents for, frankly, the last 15 years. And some of them had asked, would you do it on the radio so we could share this information with others? And I'm like, sure, that sounds like a great way to start the year off. So what I'm going to encourage you to do is if you're in front of a computer, if you have a chance, you can Google this. You can look it up anywhere. This is not new information. It's very common. It's called Wheel of Life. And you can look it up. And basically there's different variations of the Wheel of Life. But the reality is it breaks down into four major categories. All of us, our lives break down into four major categories. And of course, those four categories involve, finances, our career, that type of thing, relationships, the spiritual side of things, and our health. And those are the four big areas. And I got to credit somebody, his name is Peter J. Daniels. I heard him speak quite a number of years ago. And it was one of those life-changing events where you learn something and it's like, that makes sense. And I've applied it in my life now. I heard him speak probably 20 years ago. And he's a well-known author. You can go online, look up his name, Peter J. Daniels. He's written a number of books. But the first book that I read from him after speaking is called a book called Miss Phillips, You Were Wrong. It's a formula on how to handle rejection. It was something that I was struggling with myself at that point in my life. And anybody who, if you live life and you do anything, particularly if you're in the arena like I am, where you're talking to people about products and services, and you could say in the sales field, we certainly handle rejection or get rejections out there, let's face it, but it's true for everybody. We all face rejection at some point in our lives. And this was something very important to me. So it made a truly an impact. And I don't know if that book's even in print anymore. Like I said, it's Miss Phillips, You Were Wrong, A Formula to Handle Rejection by Peter J. Daniels. He's written a number of other books, how to reach life goals and those kinds of things. And I have nothing to do with this. It's just I know he's a great speaker. At the time, he was the second richest man from Australia. Quite a speaker. You can look him up online. Like I said, I encourage you to check out one or more of his books. But one of the things, he was the one that really was the first one to introduce me to this whole idea of the Wheel of Life. And he had a whole talk on it. And I'm going to share some of the highlights on it and the pieces of it that really impacted and made a difference for me personally. And again, I've shared this over the years with many people, and it's resonated with them too. So I think you're going to enjoy what we're going to talk about today. So again, if you haven't had the chance to do so, go online or whatever, Google Wheel of Life, and you'll find various iterations of this. There's many of them out there. But again, the four major areas of anyone's life are, your career, finances, relationships, spiritual, and health. And here's the key to this. This is something that Peter Daniels shared in his talk with us when I heard him that just made such an impact. He said, look, be honest with yourself. If you're thinking about goals, New Year's resolutions, making some changes, you want to make some improvements, you're not happy with the way things have been in one or more areas of your life, be honest with yourself. and rate yourself on a 1 to 10 in each of those areas, okay? And honesty is key here. You can't play games with yourself, right? You know what I'm saying. You're the only person to blame is the person looking back at you in the mirror, right? So here's the thing. Here's some of the thoughts on this. If you rate yourself 1 to 10 on each of these 4 areas of your life, and you find that some are, and in most cases, some are better than others, but if you have a dramatic difference on one area versus another, that's where that's how stress in life is caused. Let me use an example. Let's say you have great health, and let's say you're an 8, and your financial situation is a 2. You're dealing with some financial struggles and challenges. Is that stressful? Yes, of course it is. Let's reverse that. Let's say you have great financial situation, and you're an 8 in the financial arena, but you're a 2 in health. Is your life bumpy? And the answer is yes. And you could apply this for any of those 4 areas, the health, the relationships, the spiritual, the financial, or the health. It doesn't really matter which area is substantially different. If there's a spike in one and a really low area in the other, it's like a wheel. And if you think about it, those are the 4 spokes of your wheel. If one of your spokes was 8 inches long and the other was 2 inches long, what kind of wheel? So you draw a circle now after you've rated it, okay? So again, you rate yourself honestly in those 4 areas, 1 to 10, and then you draw a circle. Each of those 4 areas are a spoke of the wheel, and you draw a circle. And if it looks like a flat tire, because one area is an 8 and another's a 2, for example, what is that wheel going to look like? How's it going to ride? If you put that wheel on a car, how would the ride be? Well, it'd be like driving down the road with a flat tire, right? It'd be very bumpy, very stressful, very challenging, okay? And this is really this really gets to the point of why people have stress, why people struggle and get frustrated in life. Another thing that Peter shared, and this I thought was very amazing, was a valuable lesson. He says, look, if you're a 2 in all 4 areas of your life, and you draw that wheel, it's a small wheel. By the way, you're not, with a small wheel, you're not going to get very far very fast, are you? You're going to get farther with a bigger wheel, right, than you will with a smaller wheel. But you won't have a lot of stress if you're all 2s or 3s, let's say. Okay? You just won't get very far. So if your goal is to eliminate stress, but you're not really concerned about getting very far, balance them all out at 2s or 3s, and your life won't be very stressful, but again, you won't get very far. If you have more aspirations and you want to get farther in life, you have to make those spokes bigger, those numbers higher. And one of the things to do, again, one of the key things to do, there's lots of advice on goal setting, things like that, but you got to identify the area that's causing the stress. Where's the weak area? How do you shore it up? We're going to talk about that more in the next segments about how to shore those things up. But that's a key focus that you have to do. Your strengths are your strengths, okay? And this is all about eliminating stress, going through life in a better way, and not struggling so much, if you know what I'm trying to say. Not making life such a challenge, okay? And your strength, like I say, your strengths are your strengths, and you want to be in balance. It's about being in balance, if you will. We're never perfectly in balance, but our goal is to get get a balance in our lives. So if you have 2s and 8s on that wheel, you have wide swings. You got to work on those 2s and bring them up. Oh, by the way, overnight, you're not going to move a 2 to an 8. It's unrealistic in most cases. So what do you have to do to move that spoke out? So if health or relationships or finances or spiritual are really low numbers, what do you have to do? That's what I'm going to talk about in the next segment so that you can understand what to focus on. And I'm going to talk to you about how to focus on that on the next segment, because these are things that I've done myself personally in my life to make a difference. And life is a lot better when we take charge and take control of our lives and make that difference. I didn't say it was easy, but it's better and it's worth doing. If you want more information on Your Personal Bank, contact us at yourpersonalbank.com or toll free 866-515-6280. And again, next segment, we're going to talk about how to improve those areas that we need to shore up in our lives.
For more information on your personal bank, call Ference at 866-515-6280 or online at yourpersonalbank.com. Back to Your Personal Bank Show with President and Founder of Secure Estate Management, Ference Toth.
Happy New Year and welcome back to a special goal-setting edition we have on the Your Personal Bank Show. Doing something a little different today. I've been teaching this or sharing this with my agents over the last 15 years, and some of them asked me to share this information on the radio so we could share it with others. And it's made a difference in my life personally, significantly, something I've been doing for almost 20 years now. It's made a difference in a lot of people I've worked with and who are friends, and it's just been fun. So we're talking about the Wheel of Life. You know, again, New Year's, a lot of people make resolutions, set goals for the year, and those types of things. And unfortunately, as I stated, most people we know fail to accomplish many of those goals that are set. And we'll talk about the reasons why and what you can do to help that. And if you haven't already, go ahead and Google it, look it up. It's called the Wheel of Life. And you'll see various variations of this. It's been around for, over 50 years, I know, at least. But there's 4 major areas in the Wheel of Life that we all have, and it's our health, our finances, relationships, and our spiritual or personal development. And as I stated in the first segment, if your wheel is out of balance, in other words, if you rate yourself 1 to 10 in each of these 4 areas, and it's like the spokes of a wheel, and you draw a circle, so you rate each area, then you draw a circle. And if the circle is more like a flat tire, that's what's causing stress. In other words, one of your areas is significantly higher or lower than the others. And that's what's causing the stress or bumpy ride in life, if you will. So the key thing to do, and I learned this from Peter J. Daniels. He was, at the time I heard him speak, he was the second wealthiest person in Australia. He's a public speaker, has written a number of books, highly recommend him. He really introduced me to this whole idea and shared a lot of things about it. For example, if you're 2s or 3s all the way around on your wheel, you have a really small wheel, you don't have much stress, but at the same time, you don't get very far in life either with a small wheel. If you have more aspirations, want to accomplish more, you want to have a bigger wheel, but you want to try to keep it roughly in balance as much as possible. So what do? Whichever the 4 areas is the area of weakness, first thing you got to address is why. Is this a temporary situation? What was done? What happened? Were decisions made by you? What actions that you did or did not take that caused you to be in that situation? You know, you have to be honest with yourself. You have to look in the mirror and realize and recognize it's you and you alone that caused this situation. And it's you and you alone that can change that situation. Okay, that's step 1, which is not much different than most of us familiar with the 12-step program out there. You know, unfortunately never had to be a part of this, but we all know the first step of a 12-step program, if you're an alcoholic, for example, is admitting that you are one. And that's half the battle. So half the battle here is really recognizing and being honest with yourself, saying, hey, my financial life or my health or my relationships or my personal development, spiritual life, whatever the 4 areas are, is really weak right now. What am I going to do to address it? Well, first of all, again, you got to admit you have it. 2, you have to be willing to address it. And 3, to achieve balance, when life is out of balance, this is another fallacy that's out there. You know, everybody wants a balance. That's what eliminates stress, and your 4 areas are relatively equal. Well, if they're out of balance, if they're not equal, you have to be temporarily out of balance intentionally to get back in balance. Now, what do I mean by that? Because this is a big, big key. Think of a ship, a large ship. This is an analogy that makes a lot of sense, and I've shared this many times with people. You know, it's a large ship. It's going across the ocean like a tanker, like a big oil tanker ship. And halfway across the ocean, the captain suddenly realizes we're off course. So what do? Well, of course, they adjust. Now, if you think about it, they turn the wheel, if you will, in the old-fashioned, they crank that wheel on that big ship, and they crank it and crank it and crank it to turn the ship. What happens immediately? Very little. The ship doesn't turn on a dime, does it? A big oil tanker doesn't turn on a dime. It slowly starts to change. So another piece of advice I I got years ago from a very successful gentleman was, he says, look, if you've been making bad decisions, taking bad actions for a period of time, just because you start, this is where people get frustrated and fail at New Year's resolutions and goals. They start doing the right things, making the right decisions. They start, if the health goal, for example, they start eating. We all know there's a million diets out there. There's fads out there. There's all kinds of stuff. Here's the reality. We all know it's a multi-billion-dollar industry. But we all know if you eat right and you exercise, you're going to get in better shape. I don't think anyone would argue with that. And so if you start making the right decisions and taking the right actions, what happens immediately? Do you drop, you want to drop 30 pounds. Do you drop 30 pounds in a week? No, it doesn't work that way, does it? It takes time. So this piece of advice that I got from this gentleman, he goes, look, if you've been making bad decisions or taking bad actions for a period of time, just because you start making the right decisions and taking the right actions, don't expect things to turn around immediately. In fact, he had a situation where financially through his business, he had a devastating, he was a home builder, went through one of those cycles, had a devastating financial situation. And after really analyzing and looking back on it, he realized for 7 years he had made bad financial decisions and taken bad financial actions, taking on too much risk and various other things, which led to this horrific financial disaster. And he got out of it, but as he pointed out, it took about 7 years of good actions and good decisions to get out of the bad. He says, so expect. This is a multi-millionaire, very successful gentleman. So the bottom line is, if you've been doing things wrong for 7 years, like he did, don't expect it to be fixed in a whole lot less time than that, because it's probably going to take those good decisions for that similar time frame. I'm not saying that to be discouraging. I just want you to understand the ramifications of delay, deferring, ignoring these things. It's just going to continue and get worse, which it'll take longer to get better, right? So the key point here is if one of your areas of your life is out of balance, is insufficient, the number is too low in your wheel of life, you have to overcorrect or overfocus intentionally, temporarily, to fix it, to get back in balance. One of the things I've talked to people, I talk to people a lot about financial situations and debt and things like that. The debt wasn't created overnight. In most cases, it is created by a series of decisions and actions taken over a period of time. And so I talk to people about doing things intentionally, whether it's working overtime, taking on extra work, expanding their business, whatever it is, to increase the income, reduce spending at the same time, all those things for a period of time intentionally to fix the debt problem, for example. It's a very common thing I talk to people about all the time. I was talking to a gentleman just last week, and we discussed this with him and his wife and his family and all that, and he's taken on overtime and all this to fix the problem, which kudos to him. But the thing was, his wife was involved, the family was involved, the kids were old enough to understand. The dad needed to spend extra time doing these things to fix a problem that they had, but he was doing it for a period of time. It wasn't permanent. And they had a set time schedule. They kind of calculated how long you would have to do this extra overtime type work to fix the debt problem, for example. And of course, the family's on board and encouraging dad, which is another big key we're going to talk about next, in the next segment, about in terms of how to ensure, you identify where the weak areas are, go to the wheel of life, you focus on, you give yourself a 1 to 10 in each of these 4 areas of your life: health, relationships, financial, personal development, spiritual. Identify which area is weak, focus on what you can do to fix that, and create a plan to do so. But how are you going to succeed at that plan? You can have, again, we all know, you can have great intentions. You can set the goals. Gosh, you can write it down, as they always say, write them down, which you should. But why, in most cases, do the intentions fail to turn out to be action or results? We're going to talk about that in the next segment. Contact us for more information on Your Personal Bank at yourpersonalbank.com or 866-515-6280. And again, next segment we'll talk about how to succeed at the goals you set.
For more information on your personal bank, call Ference at 866-515-6280 or online at yourpersonalbank.com. Back to Your Personal Bank Show with President and Founder of Secure Estate Management, Ference Toth.
Welcome back. Happy New Year, and welcome to our special goal-setting edition of Your Personal Bank. We've been talking about the Wheel of Life. If you haven't already, Google it. You can find it, look it up. It's everywhere. The Wheel of Life, basically, in the basic iteration is there's 4 areas of our life that are important for all of us to be successful in life. And those 4 areas are our health, our relationships, our finances, and our personal development or spiritual side. If any of those 4 areas are weak or out of balance, and always the Wheel of Life is about ranking yourself from a 1 to 10 on each of those 4 areas, and then drawing a circle. Those are the spokes of the wheel, if you will. And if your wheel looks like a flat tire, that's why you have stress. That's why you have challenges, and your life is not going as smoothly as it should. You know, again, New Year's is when a lot of people set goals and create, New Year's resolutions, and you should write them down. That's absolutely true. We've talked about what to do to improve those. Go to the last segment. You want to focus on those areas to improve, identify why you're there, what can you do to address it, and temporarily, if you need to, as I use the example, if you have debt, get rid of it. Go out of balance temporarily by working harder, spending more time, invest, to make more money to take care of that problem, at least temporarily set a goal. Get the family involved if that's the case, the spouse, whoever is on board with you. Get them involved so they can encourage and support you, which is the next big key to being successful in accomplishing your goals. You see, here we can have great intentions. That's human nature. We want to improve ourselves. We want to make a difference. We want to change. And you've heard the thing, the pain of change. Or should I say the pain of change has to be less than the pain of the situation. Okay. And that's true, but you have to really desire to make that change or improve. You want to be better, okay, in whatever area that may be. But you also, to keep on track, you've got to have some accountability. And a lot of people shy away from this because this is the toughest part. One, it's hard to admit that you have a problem or you have a weakness in an area. And if you're honest with yourself, most of us, most of those situations are not because it happened overnight. It happened over time. Decisions and actions that we've taken over a period of time have created this weak situation in most cases. There's exceptions, of course, but that's typically how it works. And to admit that, gosh, I'm working out like I should, and I've got an extra 10 or 20 pounds, and I haven't done anything about it, or my financial situation, I've got some debt, and I shouldn't, and, I haven't invested in relationships like I should, or I haven't developed, personal development, spiritual side like I should. It's hard to admit our weaknesses. But you've got to have a confidant, somebody you respect, whether that may be a spouse, a mentor, a family member, a friend. I've got a number of those in my life today. I didn't in earlier days. But some of you can go out, and I've got a friend of mine, we go out about once a month, we have a beer together, and we just talk. And we're honest with each other, and everything we say stays with us. It's understood. And we talk about our successes, our failures. We encourage each other. There's a number of other folks I work with, but this is an example of one. And it's a person, we each respect each other. And that's a key. And we understand, we got a lot of similar background in business and things like that, both successes and failures that we've shared and been honest with each other about. That type of thing is needed as an accountability. And you have to share with that person your goals, which should be written down. By the way, you want to have you have a written goal, whatever that may be. You want to get out of debt. Okay, you have a certain amount of debt you want to get paid off. Okay, fine. And it could apply to losing weight, improving relationships, improving yourself, personal development. It doesn't matter. The principle's the same. I'm going to use debt because, hey, this is money radio, so let's talk about the financial side. We'll tie it together. Now, you got to really look at how much can you pay down on it, let's say, each month, and what can you do? Can you make some more money somehow? Can you invest extra time, extra hours, whatever that may be? Can you reduce some expenses, some outgo, or a combination of both? And you should be able to create a time frame of when that debt can disappear, okay? Whether it be months or years, whatever it may be. but you should be able to set a time frame. So you have a goal, you have a specific written goal, you have a specific time frame, and you have and you need an action plan. If it's a monthly payment, then you have a monthly action plan. You're going to pay off so much per month based on this a written action plan. The last part of it, though, is the accountability and the reward system. This is key. See, this is, again, how human nature works. This is how the human brain works, okay? Learn this through personal experience and a number of experts and a lot of reading. You know, if we don't have somebody that is going to hold us accountable, it's easy to be lax. Well, I was going to do that today, but I'll do it tomorrow. That's human nature. We all know that, okay? And to have somebody say, hey, my example, when I had a certain number, I want to get a certain number of new clients per week, for example, particularly in my earlier days in the industry. And, my wife knew what that goal was. And so if I was sitting at home, for example, or not on the phone or not on the computer doing what I needed to be doing, it'd be like, well, what's going on? How you doing this week? And, you didn't want to disappoint the wife, right? So it was a great way of keeping myself accountable, okay? And then here's the reward system. You have to set small rewards and bigger rewards. In my case, I had a weekly action plan, okay? So I had to have a weekly goal. And it was something like where we go out to eat and that weekend. And I used to say, early days, if I had one new client, well, we could go out to eat, but it wasn't a very nice place, more like fast food. If we got two, go to Applebee's or something, like that type of place. And if it was three, then we could eat pretty much, she could pick, we could go somewhere really nice with tablecloths, you know what I mean? It was that accountability and that reward, and that's something we both enjoyed doing, going out to eat. And this was before the kids and all that stuff. But it worked for us at that time. And I wanted to go take my wife out to the tablecloth place as much as possible. And she would be disappointed if we had to go fast food, right? I didn't want to disappoint her. And so that was that accountability and that reward system that was built in weekly, and it was very, very motivating. In fact, my manager at that time even commented 6 months later, he goes, it's amazing, you have the most consistent sales record in the company and the most consistent one I've ever seen. And I'd average three new clients a week. Went to a lot of tablecloth restaurants, if you know what I'm saying, which success builds on success, right? A simple little thing, a simple little goal. I'm telling you my story, what I did. You can apply it to your life in any way you want to. And then you want to have some bigger goals. Now, I remember one of my agents, he had some bigger goals set, and he had a quarterly goal, and then you have an annual goal. But I said, in the quarterly, you need to set a reward. He goes, I've never done that before. And I said, it's important. Well, in his case, it's got to be appropriate. In his case, he decided to take his family to Vegas for a 3-day weekend each quarter. It's something they love to do. He had a teenage kid, young adult children, and they loved going to Vegas and doing. They didn't gamble; they did all the other stuff, right? That's just something they loved to do. So he involved the family in the goal and what he needed to do to accomplish it. And after in 2.5 months, he'd accomplished his goal in the first time. Went to Vegas, took the family, and he stated to me, and he said, they're driving back, and he said, the son or daughter said to him, both kids said, Dad, this was awesome. I understand these are teenage, young adult kids, so they, you know how it is. He goes, when are we going to do this again next quarter? That was so motivating that of course, he hit it the next quarter because that was important to him and his family. Now, by the way, the next quarter he did hit his goal, and he mentioned, he goes, I'm busy, and I got this side. This is another mistake that's made. Again, human nature. He goes, I don't think I'm going to go. I said, you hit the goal, right? He said, yeah. I said, go. Yeah, but I said, no, go. You have to go. He goes, why? I said, it's your subconscious. The bottom line is, if you set a goal and you accomplish that goal and you set a reward, then you don't follow through on the reward. Your subconscious says to you, hey, wait a minute. We got on board with this. We may help make this happen, and we don't get the reward. To heck with you the next time. We can work hard and do all this stuff, but we don't get anything for it. That's human nature. So again, set your goals, put them in writing, have an action plan, whether it's weekly, monthly, whatever's appropriate, and then set a reward system. And when you hit those targets, and make it realistic, it doesn't have to be big, expensive stuff. Make it realistic based on what your goals are. And when you do achieve the goal, reward yourself. That gets the subconscious on board, which we all know. If we know anything about the conscious as a subconscious mind, the subconscious is much more powerful. In the last segment, I'm going to wrap up all of this. Again, what's the key to success, to accomplishing goals? And this is the time of the year that most of us do it. Contact us for more information, yourpersonalbank.com or toll-free 866-515-6280.
For more information on Your Personal Bank, call Ference at 866-515-6280 or online at yourpersonalbank.com. Back to Your Personal Bank Show with President and Founder of Secure Estate Management, Ference Toth.
Welcome back to the special goal setting session on Your Personal Bank. Like I said, we want to do something a little different. Happy New Year. This is the time of year when most people set goals. They start, New Year's resolutions, all those kinds of things. And we've talked about some of the things, and particularly the Wheel of Life. If you haven't looked it up, Google it, the Wheel of Life. You'll find it everywhere. This is a new idea. But on how to set goals and how, most importantly, how to succeed at making those changes in life that we all, or most of us, want to make to improve our lives. Again, the Wheel of Life, there's 4 major areas. It's health, relationships, financial, and then personal development, spiritual. And you want to rate yourself 1 to 10 in each of those areas. And each of them, it's like a spoke of a wheel. So then you draw a circle, and if your circle is pretty round, your life is pretty smooth. Now, if it's all 2s and 3s, you'll have a small circle, but you're not going to get very far in life, but you won't have much stress. If you want to accomplish more, you want to have a bigger wheel. But if your wheel is like a flat tire, in other words, 1 or more areas are substantially less than the others, then your life is out of balance. And when you're out of balance, that's when you have a bumpy ride. And a bumpy ride is where stress is created. And how do you fix that? Well, first of all, you identify, like I said, what are those areas? What caused you to be in that situation? Be honest. That's the only way it's going to work. And then you start identifying things that you can do to change that. And if you need help with that or you don't know, then you go to a mentor, somebody that you respect in that particular area. Again, whether it's health or financial or personal development, spiritual, or relationships, go to somebody that's an expert or somebody you respect and talk to them about ideas, and then again create and have that accountability with that person or a spouse or a friend or family member, somebody you're close to, you respect. Be accountable. Hold yourself accountable. Have the written goals, have the written action plan, and I said in the last statement, have the reward, set the small and larger rewards so that when you do accomplish those rewards, I'm saying when you accomplish those goals, you reward yourself so the subconscious mind gets on board with you and helps you accomplish it, along with the accountability, because you don't want to disappoint that person and come back and say, well, I was feeling tired this week, so I didn't do what I was supposed to do. No, you want to be able to go to that person and say, hey, I did this, I did that, and this is what I accomplished this week, and you can celebrate together, if you know what I'm saying, your wins. This is how you succeed at the Wheel of Life in terms of increasing those areas to be temporarily focused on the areas that are out of balance. So you're temporarily, intentionally out of balance. You over-focus on that weak area to shore it up, to bring it up, to get it more in balance, to make your life smoother, make that wheel more round and less stressful. Now, what do you have to do to make this permanent? Okay, how do you make this like not just a temporary change? Because a lot of people will do things for a while, then slack off back to their old habits. Well, many have heard that a new habit's created after 21 days. If you do the same thing every day for 21 days, it becomes a new habit. And that's a lot of studies and things have shown that to be true. The other thing here's the big key though, if you really want to change your life in a big way, long term, and make it stick. So it's not like just losing the weight, yo-yoing, for example, losing weight, gaining weight, losing weight. That doesn't work. How do you change your life and become a better person? Well, one of the things I've learned from a number of different sources, a number of very successful people, is the bottom line is we are a combination of the people we hang out with and the books we read. This gets tough, particularly when we have situations, family situations, or friends that aren't necessarily all that positive. I've grown up with this myself. And it makes it tough when you have these relationships that don't encourage or uplift you, if you know what I'm saying, and you have people around you that don't encourage you, if you know what I'm saying, in fact, discourage you. And we've heard many times you have to limit, and a lot of these relationships are family relationships, like people say, like I said, this is tough, but, we can choose our friends, we can't choose our family, right? First thing, try to talk to that person or people and see if there can be a change or difference in the long-term habits that have occurred over a lifetime in many cases, and see if there's some positive things that can come about from both parties to make that relationship better. If that's not possible, then you have to learn how to limit that relationship, and in some case, more extreme examples, you have to eliminate the relationship because it's doing nothing but keeping you in the same place where you were. And it's sad but true. We all know what I'm talking about. The other part of that is the books you read. There's a wealth. I've talked about this many times. There's 3 ways to learn about things. You can learn through the School of Hard Knocks, which is the hardest and most expensive, but you don't forget those lessons, to be fair. You can get mentors that help advise you and give you advice and learn from their experience. I mean, that's what wisdom is learning from other people's experience. And then their books, there's a wealth of wisdom in. And I've got to give a shout out to a good friend of mine, Pete Jones. We had a great conversation over the last year or so, and he sent me an email a few days ago, and we were talking about, and I shared this idea with him about the books you read and the people I hang out with, and he was like, yeah, you're so right. And he started doing some of that, and he started reading some books. He recommended one to me, which I started reading, which is great. And then he asked me a tough question the other day, and he's like, what's your 5 favorite books? I'm like, wow, that's tough, because I've read a lot of books over the last 20 plus years. And as I put them, I've got books on books. My wife can attest to this. There's books on bookshelves all over the house. And, at different points of my life, different ones have spoke to me. But, some of my favorites, I'll just tell you right here on the radio, probably my favorite book ever was The Greatest Miracle in the World by Og Mandino. Anything by Og Mandino, frankly, I found I really enjoy. Of course, I'm a fan of the classics, so How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie is a great one. See at the Top, Zig Ziglar, one of my favorite. I've heard Zig speak several times before he passed. Great influence. Acres of Diamonds by Russell Conwell is another one that I really enjoyed. And then in my field, because I'm in the sales arena, is How I Raise Myself from Failure to Success in Sailing by Frank Bettger. So those are some of my favorites that I've read over my reading career, if you will, that have made a difference for me. I encourage some of you to check it out. I think you might enjoy some of those. The last thing I want to share with everybody, again, we talked about goals, goal settings, how to accomplish those, how to be successful at setting those goals, following through, accountability, all those things. We're talking a lot about your personal bank, which for a lot of people talking on Money Radio, this is, as they say here, the staff, it's new, fresh, and different. It's actually not new. This is an idea that's been around for centuries. What I'm really doing is going back to what our parents and grandparents did, teaching people how they invested back, and it worked, and it continues to work. Plus, there's been major improvements in the products. What I'm going to encourage everybody who's listening to do through a New Year's resolution or a new goal or whatever that may be, I'm going to challenge you to learn something new. And one of those things that you could learn is about your personal bank concept. If you haven't learned about it or haven't taken the time to check it out, I encourage you to do so. Check it out. If you have looked at it recently, but the numbers didn't seem to make sense, look at it again. There have been significant improvements in the products with positive arbitrage and things like that. Go back to some of the previous recordings, some of the shows. You can go to yourpersonalbank.com or download the app, Your Personal Bank. You can check it out and learn more about this. But I'm going to encourage and challenge you to check this out, because most people I talk to are missing this tool, which means you're missing a tool in the toolbox that could really help your financial life, enhance your financial life for you, your business, and your family, and make a tremendous, significant difference in the future. That, my folks, could be your New Year's resolution resolution or your goal for 2020. It's been a pleasure. We'll see you next week at Your Personal Bank Show. Tune in every Tuesday at noon, 1510 a.m. or 105.3 FM, or go to yourpersonalbank.com and listen anytime, or download the app Your Personal Bank. See you next week.
Listen next week at noon for more information on Your Personal Bank. Contact Ference at 866-515-6280 or online at yourpersonalbank.com.
This show is designed to provide accurate and authoritative information. The presenter and guests on this program do not engage in rendering legal, accounting, or tax advice. Expert advice from a professional involving your specific situation should be sought, if required. Permanent life insurance is a long-term investment. Products, optional features, and riders may have limitations, restrictions, and additional charges and may not be available in all states. Withdrawals beyond principal may be taxable income. Excessive and unpaid loans may cause the policy to lapse. If a policy lapses, unpaid loans are treated as distributions for tax purposes. Replacements may not be suitable for everyone. There may be penalties and surrender charges when replacing coverage. New products may include new surrender charges and contestability period. Policy guarantees are based upon the claims-paying ability of issuing insurance company and do not apply to the investment performance or assets in the underlying variable portfolios. The life insurance and annuity products in this presentation are not FDIC insured, may lose value, and are not bank guaranteed.